Do you think they made the right call putting Miami over Texas?
I don't think head-to-head doesn't matter. Then why does common opponent matter? But Miami also beat the shit out of that Florida team that Texas struggled with the very next week. It wasn't very beginning of the year. It wasn't the end of the year. So but if a head-to-head doesn't matter, why does common opponent matter? Like the transitive property we know does not work in college football.
Well, and I mean,
so I think overall Texas has Texas's losses. The common opponent, the third loss is a big deal. It's so hard to judge. And listen, we give the committee a lot of crap. It is really hard to do this because there's a lot of factors. Do I think Texas would beat Miami head-to-head on a neutral field right now? Probably.
It'd be a great game. I'd love to watch it.
It would be a really good game. I think I'd lean Texas. I think an odds maker would probably make Texas a 3-point favorite if I had to guess on a neutral field right now. I'd be shocked if it was more than 4,
in any direction.
Yeah. So you're talking about, pretty even money coin flip type thing. Miami does not have, you talk about Miami has bad losses. Well, Florida's got a worse loss than either of Miami's, Texas has a worse loss than either of Miami's. Texas's wins against Oklahoma, Texas's best wins are A&M and Oklahoma. Miami's got the Notre Dame win as well. Pitt win, I guess they're still ranked, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I know we're not trying to rank by the law. I think it's a conversation. I think, who do I think would win though? Like, again, that's what you're coming down to. Last year or 2 years ago, they said, we're going with the best 4 teams, the teams we think would win. I think I'd lean Texas in that situation. I think Miami's probably more deserving. If you're going resume, I'd probably lean Miami. If you're going better team, I'd probably lean Texas.
I mean, I would certainly, the common opponent thing makes me want to lean towards Miami's resume, but oh, dude, it's the same conversation that we kind of just had about the SEC and the potential to not have a top 4 seed in this whole thing. We are, because of this addiction to the loss column, we are quickly snowballing downhill towards, Texas came out today and Sark was on the radio and said that, they're not going to play tough teams out of conference if the committee's going to punish them for losing to Ohio State. And the reality of it is, the committee said the difference in Texas being, where they are and instead of being higher is they lost to Florida. And I credit Hunter Yurachek on this. He gave a great stat. He said, if you look at our top 15 teams, they have lost to 17 different teams, right? Between all of the top 15 combined.
Yeah.
The only 16 of those 17 teams are either currently ranked in the top 25 or have been ranked in the top 25 at some point during the committee's ranking process. The only team to lose to a team that's outside of that category was Texas's loss to Florida. So he has good point when he says, their loss to Florida is the thing that's keeping them out of the field, not their loss to Ohio State. And I said after Georgia beat Texas, I think that they are a perfect case study in why the playoff doesn't need to be bigger, because we saw them play 2 really high-level teams, and they played Georgia really well for 3 quarters. They played Ohio State kind of well on and off. I mean, they certainly outgained Ohio State and all that, but we saw the result. They couldn't beat either of those teams. I don't think they're an elite team, and I think by nature to compete for the national title, you should be pretty damn good. Yeah. So if I'm being real with it, I do think Sark's got a point about the scheduling thing. I do think if they were sitting there at 10-2, this might be different if they just came off of a win over an arch rival who was number 3 in the country. I think they would be in that conversation with Alabama and Notre Dame, and that would put them in the field. So
I think Sark is technically right. If Texas played UNLV week 1, well, they were good back then, so maybe not. But if UNLV was Texas's first opponent, and they were sitting here at 10-2 with 2 losses in the SEC, even to a bad Florida team, I think they'd be. I mean, you'd be comparing the same thing. Bama has that same exact resume.
Yeah, that's right.
They have the same exact resume with a loss to a bad team at the beginning of the year and an SEC loss. Right.
Wait, so why? Yeah, hold on. That makes the stat that Yurachek shared wrong. Because he said 16 of the 17 teams were ranked in the top 25 at one point. Florida State was never ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, we got up to like 7th.
No, not in the committee's top 25.
Oh, yeah, we were never in there.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I can't. Yeah, so it's got to be 15 or 17 because they both have a loss to, but Texas's resume. So Sark is technically right. Like they probably would be, but nobody wants to hear that. You're not getting docked just off of that Ohio State game. The Ohio State losses, you didn't even get penalized for that. Like that's not
right.
Why you were penalized. You were penalized because you look like crap against your next 3 opponents, which were all schools of the deaf and the blind, right? And
well, I mean, you and I agree on that.
Just before we go on, I will remind you that all of our content is brought to you by Sleeper this year. We appreciate Sleeper for their support and hope that you are using their app with the code CFA for a 100% match up to $100. Make sure you check their terms and conditions because terms of use do apply. Make some money with us live on Wednesday on the Power 2 here on College Football Addiction when we pick the more or less games.
We agree on that, but the reality of it is what you just said and what I just said. Like they'd probably be in this field if they hadn't scheduled Ohio State in week 1.
Yeah,
and athletic directors are figuring that out because the same thing happened last year with some of those teams that were on the fringe. And I mean, the whole pitch on this and the whole reason the SEC's gone to 9 games as well is like, hey, we got a committee and we got a big field, so we can get the 12 best teams in, and nobody's gonna punish you for taking a loss to another great team. But these teams do get punished for taking losses to to anybody. Any loss you take, you get punished for in this thing. And at the end of the day, we are moving because of this addiction to the loss column, TJ. We are moving to a world where, teams are not going to schedule these hard out of conference games. They're going to cancel.
Yeah, it's just, again, we talk about unbalanced scheduling within conferences. We talk about it within the sport itself. But if you're Texas, you think about like the risk, you think about the risk for playing these games. If you're Ohio State, playing Texas week 1 was not a risk for you. Because who else was on your schedule that you were worried about? You had Texas or Ohio State had 3 games that you were worried about at the beginning of the year. Texas, Penn State, which you didn't end up worrying about that by the time the game happened. But to start the year, we thought Ohio State would have 3 tough games, right?
Right.
Texas, Penn State, and Michigan. And what did they need to do in those games? Go 1-2. Like that's all they had. We knew that from the beginning. If Ohio State goes 10-2, they're getting in, man. Their brand, their logo, the quality losses, they'll be fine. Well, they ended up winning all of them, and Penn State ended up sucking, right? And you got Texas, kind of early before they hit any kind of stride, although they were up and down all year, I guess. But if you're Texas, what did you have to risk? Well, you had Ohio State, you had a trip to the swamp, you had Red River, you had Georgia, you had Texas A&M. You had a lot more risk. And so, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if we will see a shift across the entire sport, but it wouldn't surprise me if the SEC started scheduling differently. Because the Big Ten is still going to try and schedule, whether that be Penn State trying to schedule FSU or whether that be Ohio State trying to schedule Clemson, because there are just inherently less risks. And you can still schedule really good teams out of conference. You're not scheduling, Duke and other programs. I I think the Big 12 will still try to schedule some out of conference. I think the ACC needs it for TV ratings, and their programs will try and do it. But I don't think
the SEC doesn't need it, dude.
Right. They don't. Like Texas, and again, early games are different than later games, but like Texas had some of the highest rated TV games all year, and then Ohio State one was massive, but their TV ratings aren't moved by
Texas had the highest game. They had the Texas game against Arkansas, a 3-win Arkansas team a couple weeks ago, was higher rated than the Oregon USC game that was, the only top 25 matchup of the weekend, and one team was going to basically, survive and be in the playoff, and the other was going to get knocked out. It was almost an elimination game, and nobody watched it.
Yeah.
Not nobody, but more people watched interim coach Bobby Petrino play on the road at Texas. So you're right. Like from a TV standpoint, the SEC does not need to go schedule those games.
So I don't think I don't know that they'll cancel a bunch of them here that are already scheduled and the revenue that comes in. And so maybe it doesn't end up affecting it because we changed the way that we do this, getting closer to 2030 when a lot of these games are no longer scheduled. Like Florida State and Alabama play this year, and then Florida State and Georgia play the next 2 years. We'll see if those games end up happening or not. There's other stuff. Alabama has some big games coming up, but I don't know if if there's not a change, I don't know that they continue to do it, but we'll see. I think that's a good question. And Texas, to me, Texas does not deserve to be in. It has less to do with the Ohio State game. It has more to do with the Florida game, the Kentucky game, the Mississippi State game, the Georgia game. Like, there's a pretty big list of, and again, is A&M the A&M that doesn't have a win against a team with a winning record in the SEC? I'm not trying to crap on them right now, but give the Texas fans something to enjoy, I guess. But Texas is not out to me because of Ohio State, but Sark is still right. They would be in if they hadn't played that game. Like, both are true.
Did you see? I missed this on the call. I heard multiple questions about the Miami Notre Dame thing, but I guess at one point Hunter Yurachek said it is easier to use head-to-head wins as a data point if the teams are back-to-back in the rankings.
Oh, so that makes me think. They're going to do it next week. Yeah. I think
Bruce Feldman tweeted, "This is also fucking stupid. They just keep making it up as they go along. It's like the CFP committee is going out of its way to show the sport is run by morons."
It really is, because I don't like team. Now, everything I've said, and this is in the other segment, so you have to go back and listen to it there. Everything I said about Miami deserving to be over Notre Dame still exists. I don't like moving teams when they're both off. I think that's stupid. I think that makes no sense at all. If that was the case, you should have just moved them the week before, or 2 weeks before, or 3 weeks.
And guess what? They had a perfect reason to do it because Miami beat Notre Dame. Yeah. I saw it. I watched it. It happened.
Yeah. This idea of, when Miami was ranked 8 spots behind them, they
rationalized how exactly.
So now that said, I guess what's ultimately important is that the committee gets it right. And so if they put Miami ahead of Notre Dame, that is the committee getting it right. Their logic, just like moving Alabama ahead because they blew a 17-point lead and had to come back at the end, right. Or not come back, but have a nice drive. Yeah. As long as you get it right, I guess you can be an idiot. Right. Like, you remember, like, your math teacher would be like, you need to show your work here. Well, your work's all wrong. The committee's work is all wrong, but at least they are getting the end result right. And so
it's
I won't fault you for being an idiot, but at least
it's like the scene in The Wire, right? Ranking Miami over Notre Dame has got the dinks next to it on the board.
Yes, exactly. Graham, where can people follow you? Where can they find your content?
You can find me at dogcentral.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Graham Coffey DC. Anything Dog Central. podcasts, YouTube feeds, all those things. You'll find our work. Come check us out.
Are we doing this next Sunday? I'll close with it. We're doing this Sunday at what time? I don't know. Is there a teleconference after? Or is it just kind of a live reaction, or what are we doing here?
I think there is
6 hours long. So
there is a teleconference. I think right after the ESPN releases the rankings, and I do kind of want to hear. We'll see how it plays out, right? Like if chalk holds, then it may not be that interesting to hear the teleconference, but one way or the other, actually, I am going to be on that teleconference because one way or the other, they're going to have to explain the Miami Notre Dame thing.
Yeah, we will need some answers. So, Graham, thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.